I had been working about 1 year, 9 months, and Christmas was coming up, and I wanted to go see family. Now the thing is, when you go to see family, you don't just walk out of the building, you have to write permission. And you give it in, it's a letter, and they sign either approve or disapprove, and then that's your okay or not okay to go. So the first one I handed in came back disapproved, and they were saying basically I was not being a team member, and essentially what it meant is I had not sold enough of their books. I hadn't made enough money. So I put in another one because I really did want to go, and it came back disapproved again. They wanted me to set a quota like $500 and then I can go. But we're talking Christmas Eve, Christmas Day now. So I wasn't too happy with that. I missed my dad. I hadn't been home in all of that time because I was living there. So what I ended up doing is I gave them a letter, and it said, I am going, whether you want me to or not. And I printed 10 copies and I gave it in. And that caused a bit of commotion. They did not like that at all because they expect anybody must get permission before leaving the building. And so they brought me into a room on the night before I was scheduled to go. And there was 2 of them, and they basically interrogated me as to why I really wanted to go. Because apparently wanting to see your family isn't a good enough reason, so I must be up to something if I'm breaking the rules. And that interrogation lasted for 5 hours, and the scariest part really was that they were threatening that just for leaving to see my dad would be enough to do the declare on me, to issue that piece of paper says I'm an evil person. And they were threatening right then and there they would have my dad disconnect from me for doing that, and that was really scary. I did go the next morning. We went back to our communal housing, the staff sleeping quarters, and they posted a guy at the front door sitting in a chair all night. He was there when I went to sleep. Actually, I didn't actually fall asleep. I was just laying in bed all night because I was really stressed out. And the next morning, I got up early. I hope maybe he had gone to sleep at some point during the night. And I woke up, and he was still there. So, fortunately, it was about this high to me. So, they weren't using physical restraint as they may have done in the past, because they are starting to learn that they can't fool with the law. But he said everything he could try to say to scare me into staying. I went anyways, but I never saw my dad for the majority of the week because they threatened that they would call him and ordered him that on site he had to put me in the car and bring me back to the base. So even though he wasn't a staff member, they still had that kind of control. And so I used the time to think, and I thought a lot about what was going on and why this was a rule that you had to ask permission to leave, and why they got so angry and were trying so hard to keep me from going. And I realized it was pretty much all about control. And at that point, the control had broken, and I also was so upset that I was no longer a Scientologist. But I went back in there because I knew that if I never came back, I'd essentially be homeless as far as my dad was concerned. Because I'd been living with my dad all my life, and that was still my home at the time. So I just arranged things so that I would get fired from management, and that gave me precious few months at my dad's place to try and get a job, get enough money to get a place to rent. And finally what happened is I came in touch with a woman named Maureen Bolstad, and she had lost a sister in a similar manner through disconnection. She and her sister were staff members in Hemet Valley, Hemet, California. When she left, her sister was transferred to Mexico and then up to Canada, just to be so mysterious and unclear that she never see her sister again. And I kind of ruined it for them because I knew her very well. And her sister actually had a breakdown due to working hard hours in a kitchen, serving 65 people breakfast, lunch, and dinner with no breaks for her. And she had, as far as I know, untreated diabetes, or poorly treated diabetes, and she was underweight. And she basically collapsed one day and was incoherent and was not able to form sentences properly. So that was quite a scare. And so because of that, I was concerned about her. And I relayed a very simple letter by walking into the front lobby of the 696 Church of Scientology building when they still considered I was a loyal member. And I sat there until I saw our sister, and I gave the letter, and the letter simply said, "Dear twin," because they're twins, "I hope you're doing well. If you need anything, contact me." And it said, "Love, your sister." So, by giving that letter, I had caused great stress on their part, because having had that breakdown, her sister may well have been ready to go. She may have been done. So it was important to give her the letter. Unfortunately, she turned it over to their ethics department, and they eventually called me and let me know that they were not happy with what I had done. And by this point, I was done, because I had read what they'd done to her sister in California, and why she's now declared, and it was unbelievable. Like, she has not done anything wrong. She was abused, and for leaving, now she's considered evil. And so I hope that one day they can be back together, because they are twin sisters, so they should never have been separated as far as I'm concerned. And a couple of months later, after the declare finally came through the works, they actually declared me on L. Ron Hubbard's birthday, because they have a birthday game and they wanted their statistic graphs to be, I guess, as high as possible. So the person whose job was to print declares got to go for a party on his birthday, and on Ellen Hubbard's birthday I was declared. My dad was on course in the building when they showed him the declare, the piece of paper, and he came home later that night. I was at home when they brought it to me. They didn't give me a copy. They had an iron fist on it. They didn't want to let it distribute, because they knew it would be very incriminating to them. My dad comes home and he says to me, almost in tears, "You're gonna have to leave." And we didn't talk too much, and later pretty much all he said was, as far as why he was agreeing with it, in his mind he has no control over it. He said, "I did nothing, there's nothing I can do. You know, this has been done, it's over." So he already was accepting the fact that I'd been declared, and it was just common knowledge to him that I now had to leave. And I did move. Fortunately, the time I had saved enough money to pay my rent and move out. And when I did finally move out, he never said a word to me, not even goodbye.
Okay. Anything else you want to add to that? You don't have to if you don't want. But
I think that's pretty good for now.
okay. Very good. Thank you very much.
Yeah.